What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Tonight we have Jake the Asshole, who denies that this picture behind me is a real picture. So I hope that you guys will stick with me. It's actually going to be a super short stream tonight because we're going to jump right into Jake's video after I kind of give you guys some background information, just a little bit. So I hope that you will enjoy this. If you do, please don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you like this type of content. We do this conspiracy theory type of debunking every Friday night, so and at 8:30 p.m. Central time. So I hope to see any new people that might be watching come and join us for the live stream. So first up, we have to talk about this image behind me, how it was made, the algorithm that went into producing this image, and just some basic information about like radio telescopes. So this image behind me is the first image of a black hole. We're going to be going over a video where Jake the Asshole says that it's not actually a picture of anything. It's just a CGI artist rendition of something, right? That's generally where they go. I've watched his video. That's where he goes, but he says it in his own special way. But what we first have to understand is the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, the electromagnetic spectrum, or electromagnetic radiation, contains a spectrum called visible light. That's what we see with our eyes. This is generally what flat earthers require in order to experiment. They just want to do observations, which limits them to only the visible spectrum of the electromagnetic radiation that exists in the universe. But I don't know if they just don't understand it or they don't realize it, but there are other wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation. And those are wavelengths that we can't see. Typically, those are emitted in the universe by stars or black holes. So, this image behind me was actually generated by a collaboration of about 8 radio telescopes positioned all across the world to make a giant dish. Okay, and I'll explain how that happens here in a second. Radio telescopes, what they do is they look at a wide range of different wavelengths that they can capture, and they record it all at one time. The first radio telescopes actually just targeted like one particular spectrum, and that's it. The difference between the first radio telescopes and the radio telescopes we have now is the same difference between black and white TV and color TV. You can see in several different spectrums of the electromagnetic radiation. So, if you guys don't recall, there are these massive fields of radio telescopes that like the group SETI uses to, monitor electromagnetic radiation in the universe. And you can target those to specific areas of the sky. Why they put them in such big clusters is that in order to get a bigger radio telescope to be able to see in much finer detail or to see objects that are farther and farther away, you need a lot of these radio telescopes. The reason why is because each radio telescope is a known distance from another radio telescope. And what they do is they take that distance and the angles at which the electromagnetic radiation comes in, and they can calculate they can refine the picture that they capture with these radio telescopes. So basically, when you have a group of radio telescopes, the farthest distance from one radio telescope to the farthest radio telescope from that one, like the farthest leg basically of one of these, is going to be how big your dish effectively is. The reason why this had to have such a huge radio telescope to basically be about as big as the Earth, which in case you didn't know, the actual size of the radio telescope that they used to image this guy, it's the same distance from the South Pole to Spain. I believe it's Spain. I've got information links in the description. So it was a huge radio telescope by any standard. Now, it's about the size of our planet. The reason why they had to get that massive of a radio telescope is because that motherfucker back there is about 55 million light years away. And in order to see something that far away, you have to have a massive telescope, a radio telescope, obviously. So how they did this is they used atomic clocks and synchronized all 8 of these radio telescopes to capture the electromagnetic radiation spectrum, like all of the spectrum, as much as they could. They captured all of it in one instance, and that resulted in a, if I can say it, fuck ton of information, like on the order of I want to say petabytes. Anyways, it was a fuck ton of information, right? So once they did that, they needed an algorithm to sort out the information and really visualize it. We do this a lot with data sets, and you can do this with other data sets. Like when you open up your audio manager or your audio editing software, like Adobe Audition, you can actually get a heat map where it actually represents sound waves and relates their intensity by either brightening a color on the screen or dimming a color on the screen. Similar kind of thing, especially if you think about it with the sun, taking pictures of the sun. When we take a picture of the sun, it they use a camera, but they limit it to these wavelengths of light that you can't necessarily see. And it's the only way to get a good picture of the sun because of how bright it is. So they have to have an algorithm to interpret this information in a way that we can understand it or we can visualize it. That's where Katie Bowman, I'm sorry, I tried looking it up and I found 2 different pronunciations for her name. But Katie, she came up with an algorithm to do this very visualization behind me. Imagine that you have 3 data sets. One data set is the data collected by all 8 of the radio telescopes. Another data set is a group of pictures that we can use to map to this data set. And the pictures can be of anything. It's just looking at the data set and relating it to the images to give us a picture of whatever the data set represents. They actually safeguarded their algorithm by testing it with several different groups of things. So what Katie and her group, they simulated a black hole and took measurements of the black hole that would mimic the measurements that they would get from the radio telescope experiment. And then they use the algorithm to generate an image from that data. And to make sure, because the first sets of base images that they used to map it was maps of these projected black holes, right? Well, what they did then was they just took general astronomical bodies and they cut it up and they used it to generate a visualization, and they got the same image. And then they just took everyday photos, like photos you would find on Facebook or whatever, and they were able to cut those up and use those to visualize the data, and they got a black hole looking image. So the algorithm can correctly interpret the radio. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The algorithm can interpret the electromagnetic information, radiation information that was captured by the radio telescopes and generate an image based on those readings. So they spent a lot of time working with this algorithm, making sure that it actually produced images that were intelligible and accurately represented the information it was given. So that brings us to here, and that's what this is. This is an interpretation of the electromagnetic radiation that was captured in, I believe it was 2017, by 8 radio telescopes positioned all over the world that were connected by an atomic clock, and they all captured the electromagnetic spectrum at the exact same time so that they could accurately map this. And then this is what they get when they just use images that we already have and already know, like that are accurate, and they were able to map this image. So that's the background on the first black hole image, just a very surface level kind of layman's idea of how it was generated and why. If this is a conspiracy, you're talking about hundreds of people that would have to be in on this conspiracy. So to say that this is fake is really just shitting in the faces of all of these scientists that have spent 2-3 years of their lives trying to do this very thing. So now let's cue Jake. All right, so Jake's video starts. Let's see. Matthew Boldridge in the comments says 200 people. So yeah, I knew it wasn't exactly 100 people, but I knew it was over 100. So Jake's video starts at about 2:27 in, and I'm just now realizing I forgot to put his video in the description. But anyways, let's listen to what Jake has to say.
What's up, guys? Jake the Black Hole here. Excuse me, Jake the Asshole here with some exciting breaking news. Scientists have obtained the first ever image of a black hole. Yes, apparently all the other images you've ever seen of a black hole were artist renditions, and this image right here before your very eyes is the first ever real, authentic image of a black hole. This stunning new image shows the shadow of a supermassive black hole in the center of a far distant galaxy said to be 55 million light years away from Earth, or 300 million trillion miles away.
Yes, it's very impressive. And the reason why it's so fuzzy is because it is that far away, and we can't build a bigger dish in order to refine the image any better. Also, a cool thing to keep in mind here, this is the black hole 55 million years in the past, because that's how long it takes light to travel here. So the radio telescopes, they just took like the information that the Earth was receiving. So this is 55 million year old light. It's pretty fucking amazing if you ask me. Also, one big thing that this particular image helped with is showing how predictive Einstein's equations were, like or are through like general relativity and stuff like that. It predicted what it would look like, and that's why the simulations that we can carry out with black holes appear similar to what we see here.
NASA claims that obtaining this image involved 8 ground-based radio telescopes around the world operating together as if they were one giant telescope the size of our entire planet.
Yeah, well, about the size of our planet. Like I said, it went from the South Pole to, I believe, Spain, and that's the longest leg. And so that's pretty much how big your dish is. At least that's what I've read up on. So it was huge. And this isn't something that's like new or anything. We have these radio telescope fields in the United States, and like I said, the SETI group, and they've also been featured in movies like Terminator Salvation. They had a radio telescope field there. So the way that they did this, the only problem is being able to time everybody and having the correct weather conditions in order to capture accurate data.
Okay then. NASA also claims, by its very nature, a black hole cannot be seen, but the hot disk of material that encircles it shines bright.
Yes, a black hole is a point in space-time that is so densely packed with matter or mass that the gravity that makes gravity so strong that not even light can escape it. So of course, light's not going to reflect off that sumbitch. We're not going to be able to see like the actual like singularity of a black hole. What we can see is like the fuzzy outline of the event horizon. The reason why the gases and everything like that are really extremely hot around it is because of gravity and how fast it's pulling them towards it. It causes a lot of friction and causes them to heat up, and that's why we can see this shadow of the black hole.
Against a bright backdrop such as the disk, a black hole appears to cast a shadow. So apparently, this is a black hole's shadow. It kinda looks like a big old fiery butthole, don't it?
You know, the internet went Eye of Sauron. Why he had to go with butthole? Like I don't understand. Like I get it that I have crude humor, but I mean I saw the Eye of Sauron. I would have made the Eye of Sauron joke because the Eye of Sauron joke is way funnier than like jalapeno asshole.
Just kidding, NASA. I'm just joking. It totally has no resemblance whatsoever to a big fiery butthole.
I mean, it really doesn't. At best, you could say it looks like a red donut. But I mean, even then, it's like, oh, look, a big red donut. Okay, still, Eye of Sauron, way funnier.
Okay. Hey, y'all. I got a question. How is it that we're supposedly looking at an image from 300 million trillion miles away and or 55 million light years away? How is it we're even looking at this image? Meanwhile, we...
Okay, so I answered this prior to it, but I just want to add on here that this would be light that isn't normally visible to you. Your eyes can only see in a very narrow spectrum of the electromagnetic radiation spectrum. So this isn't light that you can necessarily see, and that's important.
You're unable to zoom in on the American flag on the moon, which is only 238,000 miles away.
Well, yes, true. We don't have a telescope that can zoom into the surface of the moon and get the kind of resolution that we would need in order to see, like, the lunar lander or the flag. But why do we need that? Like, we would be building a telescope that is really huge, like an optical telescope that's really huge, that would probably have a lot of cost, time, money, just to be able to see what's on the moon. Like, I don't know, that just doesn't seem interesting to me. Plus, there's a lot cheaper ways in order to get close-up pictures of the moon. Like, for instance, just fucking sending up a satellite to orbit the moon and take pictures of the surface. So, but then again, I don't know why we would want to do that.
How is it even possible we're able to see this image when it's so incredibly far away?
Radio telescopes taking a picture, not just one picture, but taking a data set of the entire electromagnetic spectrum from 8 points across the globe at the very same time. Like, at the exact same time, they're snapping this picture. And then they're interpreting the data like we do with fuck tons of other things in daily life.
as compared to the moon.
Again, why do we need to see that much detail on the moon? I mean, you understand how big the moon is. No, you don't. No, what am I saying, honey? He doesn't understand.
If we can't zoom in on the American flag, or the leftover lunar modules, or the leftover rovers on the moon, then how is it we're able to see this image?
Like, you seriously can't just Google shit, man? And the insinuation here is that this is CGI, or this is generated in some way that's disingenuous. It's not.
I don't know about you, but I was not born yesterday, and I definitely do not trust the government or the mainstream media, and everybody is running with this image as...
I don't... Like, Katie Bowman? Or Bowman? Whatever? Sorry if anybody that knows her is watching. But she's from MIT. She doesn't work for the government. Like, I don't know why you think that it's the American government that is pushing this, or any government that's... These are educational institutions.
Being an authentic image of a black hole. Even Google is often running with this image. Everybody and their mama is talking about this black hole image. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever with your own eyes seen a black hole in outer space?
No, because you cannot see a black hole. You can't see a black hole. You also can't go into space and see a black hole. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't want to be anywhere near a black hole. If you would even understand a monicum of what it means to be even close to a black hole. Like, sure, you could, with how big that black hole is and everything, because it's like, it's fucking huge. You could be a good ways away and still be able to see the event horizon, or at least the effects of it and whatnot. But, I mean, I really don't think that Jake understands, like, what black holes are.
No, you have not. You have only seen an image on your computer screen, or on your television screen, or on your phone screen. It was always on a screen. You've never seen a black hole with your own eyes, and you never will.
Oh, I mean... you never will, honey. Okay. Yes, we will never be able to see the actual singularity of a black hole, but we can see the effects that the black hole has on the immediate surroundings. That's what we took a picture of with the radio telescopes. And just because you can't see something doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't exist, or that we can't detect it in some way, because the visible light spectrum is very limited, and the radio telescopes, however much of the electromagnetic spectrum it was listening to, it was looking for like shit outside of the visible spectrum. So they took all of that information and then fucking interpreted that information to visualize it, like we do with a lot of other different information.
So of course you have to blindly trust the mainstream media and your government.
No, you don't have to blindly trust. They plainly tell you how they did it, and what they had to do in order to generate it, how they safeguarded shit in order to generate this image so that it wasn't a disingenuous image. Like, there are scientific standards that they have gone through in order to ensure full transparency and to ensure that this image is not like misrepresenting the data. This is just visualization of the data. We get a super chat from Drew's Book Reviews. Maybe if we opened up his head, we would see one.
If If that's something you can do, well, good for you. That's not something I can do, which is why I make videos like this.
I have to say, that's probably the truest statement in any of his videos. I can't do it. That's why I make videos like this. Obviously, Jake, you can't do it. And that's why you succumb to these conspiracy theories and shit. I mean, you think some crazy fucking shit, Jake. The Random Explorer says Jake needs to pull his head out of his black hole. Damn. Savage.
So it's obvious to me that the establishment, be it government, mainstream media, mainstream science, what have you, the establishment is trying to shove evolution and the Big Bang Theory down our throats.
So, hold on. I need this. How is this pushing evolution or the Big Bang Theory down anybody's throats? It's a goddamn orange fucking picture. Like, that's it. It's a representation of the data they captured. How is this pushing evolution at all?
That is their goal, to get us to buy hook, line, and sinker into their theories of evolution and the Big Bang creating the Earth.
Now I want y'all to see this big ass black hole right here. It's huge as fuck. This means evolution happened. There you go. Buy it, hook, line, and sinker, or we're gonna fuck your shit up. You understand me? Also, God didn't create the universe, Big Bang did. That motherfucker right there proves it. He says it right there in the background. Look at him. Evolution true and the Big Bang created everything. See? Motherfucker. Oh, wow. My green screen is screening out this yellow.
Oh, yeah, on the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Magical explosion. And so they need these creations such as a black hole in their fictitious world in order to further push their theories upon us.
They don't need the black hole to exist, actually. I'm sure they would be fine if there were no black holes out there. But the fact is that we've been able to observe the effects of black holes for, I want to say multiple decades now. If not 100, at least 100 years. We've been able to notice how planets are orbiting a vacant space, part of space. And the only way that we could make sense of that is there has to be a massive body there for those stars to orbit around. And it's also been postulated that the center of most galaxies is a supermassive black hole. So, the thing is that Einstein's general theory of relativity predicted that black holes would exist and that these things would eventually be found. And so just because we haven't noticed like a black hole until now or been able to visualize an actual black hole, we've been able to predict these things. See, this is the thing about science, is it's predictable. We have these predictable models where we can test it by observing reality. And see, the funny thing is that Jake and his ilk, they talk about observation all the time. It's just, oh, well, what can you observe? Can you see this? Can you see that? It's like, well, we figured out how to see other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that you can't necessarily detect with your eyes. And then he's just like, well, you know what? Fuck that. I can't see it. It don't exist. It's like, I would hate to see Jake at an emergency center when they're doing an x-ray of his broken ass leg. Because it's like, nope, I don't believe it's broke. Nope, that's an x-ray machine right there. That shit ain't real. Y'all are doing the CGI. I'm not accepting your evolution. And like the radiology tech's just like, oh, well, you can try to walk if you want, but that shit's gonna break the fuck off.
In order to further push the theory of gravity upon us, they need black holes. And the establishment needs these fictitious creations in order to further hook you into believing that the earth was created out of pure happenstance by a magic explosion.
There's nothing magic about the Big Bang explosion. There are models that can tell you how shit happened at the Big Bang and afterwards. We don't know what happened prior to the Big Bang, but that's okay because it doesn't affect anything after it happened.
This has been just another opinion from Jake the Black Hole. Excuse me, Jake the Asshole. Please like, share, and subscribe. And
don't share, subscribe him. Share and subscribe this video, though.